Welcome to another review and feedback. I have a game between a Zerg and a Protoss. We're going to see some new and interesting stuff that I have not seen before. Because I haven't reviewed this game yet, which I don't normally review any of the games before loading. Okay, game, let's go StarCraft. I believe this is on a previous patch, so fair warning. Why is this not working? Why is that not working? Hold on. I want this to work. Okay, that's why. I promise you I will have this sorted out in like a moment and we will restart the game. I am just trying to get my scene to transition properly. That's fine. We'll deal with that in a minute. Now we can go back to this. No, please. There. Okay. Back to the beginning of this game. Now, this is actually a good song. Interesting. I haven't heard this one before. But I also don't listen to the soundtrack unless I'm doing this because I know it's good and it's just been a long time since I've done the campaign. So, in the upper right hand corner we have Exrampage as a Zerg, and in the bottom left hand corner we have the Protoss barcodes. Yay! This is a play level around Diamond. So, fair warning, we're going to see some mistakes. We're going to have some interesting plays because of it. Idle workers, things of that nature will happen. You can always put your probe on patrol so it doesn't let you know. If you don't, you always have the hotkey button that says idle worker. Instead of fighting it, the Zerg decides to just go for the natural third location versus the natural second base location, normally called just the natural. For those of you that do not know, that is what people mean when they say natural. It's just a relocation. Just so you know, you can watch your workers and make it so that you don't have them going all over the place. You can be a little bit more efficient with your worker count. What you want to do is you want to look for the one that's moving and then look for the one that doesn't have somebody on a patch while it's not moving. You could fix that. Also, rallying the gas is important. This is in this. You could see that. Ha! See, I caught it. He had his worker going over here. He sent it over here. He could have just rallied it right here to his gas. Probe's still doing its thing. Zerg base going down. Normal extractor. This is a, I believe, I wasn't paying super close attention, a 16, 17, 16, with it being hatch first, then the gas, then the spawning pool. On the other side of the map, we have a normal opening with a cyber core and a gateway. I don't see a gap in this wall. If there is one, it's down here, and I don't think there is. So you're going to expect some starport shenaniganery, probably. You want to be very cognizant of your opponent if you scout this. You want to be kind of on the edge with a Zergling and an Overlord, so you can see if they warp in anything. That way you'll be able to prevent. You'll have full knowledge what they're doing. And it makes it so run-bys are a lot harder to do if there's a full wall-off. But on the plus side, it makes it so that they... oh, there it is, not a full wall-off. Okay, so I was mistaken. I don't know this map very well, so that's part of the problem. Lings come out, they see the probe going on their way. This looks like a TVZ build, more so than anything else. Protoss didn't do anything to slow down the third, which the third is about 150 minerals or so late. Not a big deal, just something to be aware of. So that 150 minerals can immediately go into drones because we are behind on production. We can get up there a little bit faster. You have scouting, you know what they're doing, kind of. You saw the adept, so you could sort of kind of hang out and say, I can go eco harder. Obviously, it's been done. It's just a little bit slow. Again, you have larva hanging out. Units, larva 3, in resources 200. Can't have those downtimes, especially as Zerg. The reason being is that your timing on everything is so tight, and you want to make sure that you're able to have the maximized income against your opponent. Against Protoss, creep spread is not as important. It is important. Do not get me wrong. It is very important, but it is not as important as having those extra larvae and making sure you spend your money. Supply capped, but there's a Overlord on the way. Not a big deal. Theoretically, at this point, you got to have something that's saying, okay, what's my opponent doing? Your Overlord's doing a really good job of that. You're going to go into layer here very shortly. The reason being is that you want to be able to get overseers because you don't know if they're, I mean, obviously you do know, but you want to make sure that they don't go into something like DTs, blah, blah, blah. You want to make sure that you have the ability to go corruptors and mutas if you need to be able to stop any warp prisms, which I know that I have God vision, but you want to be aware and ready for that. I do like having the lings spread out like you do. You do have some gaps, so you might want to add in a handful more, especially since you saw our robotics bay. And so if he accidentally, because we're not at that level yet, flies through this gap, that's a huge gap, or this gap here, or goes around the edge, like this ling might want to be like right here-ish instead, so that way you can actually catch the edge of the vision. Same with this one. Like, you need about 6 lings or so. At this point, you want to expand into your 4th. You can go up here, or you can go over here. But it's hard to say because you don't have vision inside anymore, so you don't know how many gates and things. Let's check your vision. So you don't know how committed they are. So this is why you need that overseer. That's why I was saying go layer, get that overseer. Also, you saw the warp prism. You need more than just roaches. You need lings and roaches. You should also have stacked at about 4 minutes. You should be just ready for an advance move from your opponent. You should have had about 20 lings or so. That's why I was like, hey, use like lings over here. You didn't have the lings. You have money you're floating. Just being aware of the fact that you're doing these kind of little iffy mistakes. Not huge, little ones. And that's why I was like, also, hey, you need to make sure that you're droning a little bit harder. You need to make sure that you get that econ as best you can. The queens, pull them back, keep them on creep, pull them back, pull them back, come on, pull them back. So this is another thing, right? Your queens are out and about. They shouldn't be. Get it back on creep, pull it back. Have them in a hotkey, all of them that are not your injects. Another hotkey should be all of your injects. The reason being is then you could spam, bam, 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 really, really hard for the injects. Also, hydras, you know that they're kind of being aggressive. I would have built things, right? Your front line is roaches, but you saw that they had a warp prism. You saw they had a robotics facility. Before they built it, you got to expect immortals. So if you have Ling Bane against their zealots and then roaches as well, you're good to go. Also, you lost a big chunk. Like, a move. Why are you trying to move? Like, that could have killed a lot of these zealots. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back just a little bit here. Okay. This is important. This is very important. Your opponent is going to be aggressive against you. You know they're going to be aggressive. You're doing your best to build as many units as you can. You're floating resources. Right now, you cannot float resources. If you have larvae, they need to be spent. You should be dying for larvae right now. You cannot have any larvae because they're going to be either overlords, 2 more overlords, or they're going to be, or 1 more overlord, or they're going to be units, and you have enough for 2 more. You also know that your opponent is probably coming for you. They've been a little bit aggressive. They don't have any third, which means they're doing a 2 base. They didn't come out here. This is really, really sketchy for against a Zerg because of lings. So you know they don't have a 3rd base. So about 40 seconds ago, you knew they were doing a 2 base all in. At 5 minutes, if they don't have a 3rd, you need to be going, oh shit. And you need to be ready for them to attack. This army is going to get completely slaughtered by these immortals and this warp prism alone. You should be building more queens, right? You need all of your queens. At this point, you're getting ready to have the fight, right? They killed this overlord that was right here. You know that you need to pull all your queens together. You should have a lot of queens, not 4. You should have like 6, 8, 10. You should be not capped at 104. I mean, you're okay at 104. You could put up defensive structures. Not that defensive structures are kind of but like, if you have the money and you don't have the supply, and that's when you start building defensive structures. If you put like one spine, like spine, because you were capped, but you're not capped. But if you were capped, that's important. Hydra's a good choice-ish. You still have those 2 supply that I would use. I would probably make those lings. You don't have enough lings. You're like half as many lings as you should have. Maybe a third. And then you need to set up flanks, so you know that they're coming this way. So go, okay, let me take my lings and go all the way around over here, and then come up behind, get the sentry, snipe the sentries, pop the shield, the little barrier, just hit the immortals once or twice, pull the lings back after you kill the sentries. Because you can see he's trying to put his frontline army in front. You could hit his weak, squishy stuff in the back by sending those fast lings around. Now, let's go ahead and slow this down to normal speed. I know this is slower than reality, so when you get to a much higher level, it will feel like this in actual gameplay. You see they have the sentries, right? Let's look at your camera. You see they have the sentries. You see they have stalkers. You see they have zealots. You see they have immortals. So you need to be very cognizant about how you engage. It is okay to lose this base because they are only on 2 base. Okay? Also, I like the fact that you're not supply capped. But you have 300 resources and 11 larvae, or 600 resources and 11 larvae. You need to be building units right now. Your hotkey setup, okay, my keyboard, 1, 2, 3 is usually like these 3 places. 4 is like pinky, so you have to like do this thingy. You can hold it that way. And then 5 is like this weird reach out. Or you could set yourself a little bit further over, and your ring finger is your 5. Your most powerful 2 fingers are your pointer and middle finger. Army and production. 1, 2. I'm not necessarily saying you have to do that, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm simply saying that, like, you don't have anything on 2 right now. You don't have any casters. You're floating larva and you're floating resources, and you have supply cap available, and you're getting all in. It means that you're making it difficult for you somewhere to produce units or be aware of the number of larvae. Your opponent is also floating. Imagine that he had 5 more zealots in this army, because theoretically he could. They're not producing anything. I think their gates are not even... Yeah, the gates... Okay, fine, the gates are on cooldown. But, like, he could easily have another immortal. Right? 100 gas, 275, has 1 more pylon down. You have 3 immortals in this army instead of 2. They could take you out. Okay. All right, sorry. Now, to the fight. Your lings. Okay, they're frontline. Cool. We like that. Except we didn't set up a flank, and there's not enough of them. And you're going to get cut off, and you're going to lose them immediately because you saw the sentries. So I would probably have grabbed my lings. Now, I'm not this good yet. I am in diamond. So I understand this mistake. I'm letting you know as for, like, thinking about how you do your engage. These lings need to go, like, over here after that overlord dies. Catch any reinforcements. Not that there are any because they have a warp prism. Oh, wait, you could park your lings underneath the warp prism, and then this army, all you have to do is deal with it. And then he's got to pull back, and that gives you reprieve and time, which is what you need to be able to spend your resources to build more army. I digress. Point being is just be cognizant that there are ways to slow this and this down to give you time to fight. Your upgrades, you don't have any +1 or any of that kind of stuff. I don't expect you to. They have a +1. They're doing a timing attack. Also, you could pull all of your workers. As soon as you saw them get on creep, pull all these workers and send them to your natural. Okay, I don't care if I lose that base, right? It does not matter if you lose this base and like 3 workers if you have this one fully saturated. And you're expanding here. Just something to think about as well. All right. So, normal speed. Lings immediately get deleted. He cuts you in half. Now, you have space. You could try and sneak here, except for this sentry's got a lot of energy. I wouldn't. Okay. This point, don't move a click back. Just a click back, and then group the army that is fighting in places you don't want it to The reason being is these units are basically dead, and you want them to do literally as much damage as possible. The other bit is they have zealots. If you can cut down that front line a lot, go for it. So if you're behind the sentry wall with this most of your army, you're able to kill these zealots, and they can't touch your army because your tanky queens are over here cutting it off, and your ranged units are just shooting at it. So had you just moved back here, this army wouldn't be doing this weird movement. I do like the queens moving back. You would have lost one. That was a good call. With these units specifically. But for these units, not so much. But you can see, you're just walking, you're walking, you're walking. Where is the A clicking? Where's the drone pull? This should immediately be pulled away. You should not have them anywhere near here. You built too many overlords. That being said, nice. I like it. Oh, don't move that much far in. Okay, you did get it, but you moved too far in. So immortals are really powerful, but they're not worth your whole army. This is fine, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. Cool, this is great. I love this right here. This was bad. You have a zealot flank that you've enabled. Your queens are stuck back here, not helping, and you're moving into his immortal count. And you're moving way over here. This is far, far too deep. If you had moved back a little bit and then clicked here, that would have been a little bit better. So now you have this flank that's going on. Cool. You have more zealots, and your whole army is sacrificed. This is why you lost. 7 roaches, not a bad choice. But you are still floating 7 larvae, 700 resources. So your 5 key isn't getting you what you need. And to be fair, I'm not looking to see if they just popped, but I'm fairly certain they didn't. So this whole army just got completely annihilated because you went after one immortal. And you didn't even pop the barrier on this at all. I do like the injects. It's good. Again, we could have killed off the zealots earlier. He reinforced with more zealots, which is fine. Inject. Or transfusion. Sorry, transfusion. You shouldn't be fighting with these. These should be over there getting you resources the whole time. They should have never been in the fight. They should have never been anywhere near this. It was going to be tight either way. It was a really well-timed attack. You built too many hydras. More lings would have been better. More roaches and lings would have been better. On the other side of the map, things to like clue you in, right? We'll go really fast. Other things to clue you in on what he's doing is there's no third. So you kind of stopped. You droned. You didn't drone hard enough early, and you droned too much late. If that makes sense. Like you're like, oh, I'm going to be able to fight this. I'm going to be able to deal with it. But you're not. Because you didn't, you scouted with your overlord. You lost it before the explosion. You didn't have an overseer, so you could have validated what your overlord saw, right? As soon as you did this, go park it out here. You did fine there. Your opponent is building this forge, which is going to be a +1, which is weird. But like you didn't scout the main again at all. That's fine. You found the Robo Bay. That means you're going to get at least pressure here. So you need to have enough units. So your production, as soon as you saw that, I think it was right around here. Around here. This is where you build more lings. Count. You have 3. You have some minerals. You have supply cap. Like, and this is immediately time for you to say, oh crap, let me build more queens. Let me build more lings. Let me get ready to do the roaches. Roaches are going to be kind of weak against Robo. Roaches are just weak against Robo. We know that. We've watched professionals do stuff. You don't have another follow-up? Like, where's your other overlord? There's not another overlord coming through. But you should have one parked here, and you should have one parked here. You should poke in, get as much information as you can, get out, poke in, get out. Or have an overseer, drop a zealot, a changeling, have the zealot changeling run through, and then get out. And not lose the overseer. Or fly the overseer across. 5:30, you should probably have your layer done. You do. So where's your overseers? I don't see any overseer ever. But yeah, no third is a big clue, right? When you should be... It stems from you having floating larvae and having the money to build and the supply to build drones, and you didn't build them. You should be... Your build is just weak with regards to doing that. Like, if we look at your units, look at your money. Larva, 2. Space to build, space to build. 4, 6, space to build. Okay, we're good. Space to build. This is getting up a little bit high, right? That 300 right here with 5 larvae, with 16 supply, 20 supply. We're putting ourselves at a disadvantage already, especially since you have full information already, right? Now, you eventually did it. I'm pointing out that that's your gap. There's a very big gap there. Also, if you're expanding here, put the gas here. You need to have it protected because gas is important. If you lose your gas ability, you're in trouble. You should be building queens, more queens, 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 because those are going to be your tank against this army. You should be building, yeah, that's just where you are. I don't even have drone. Yeah, because you were too far behind on that earlier. All right, so let's talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, right? The good. You recognize that you struggle with the matchup. You can ignore everything I say, and you go find a professional game where you see that kind of interaction, right? Where you see a 2-base all-in, where it's a Zerg versus a Protoss. Go look at that build of that Zerg. What are they doing? How are they positioning themselves? How are they making it so it's hard for their opponent to get on the map? How are they making it so they're delaying their opponent? And so you can get more drones, more units, and making it so that they have to feel threatened. You didn't threaten them in any way, shape, or form across the entirety of the game. You didn't even poke the front with lings. You just were like, okay, fine. Build whatever you want. It's 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and you are on the map killing me. I could have attacked you at 4 minutes. Ha-ha! Right? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying do all-ins or any of that kind of stuff. I'm saying send your 4 lings over, lose 1, but make it so that they're like, oh, crap, they're probing me. They're hitting my front. I need to build more stuff earlier instead of building the drones I want to build. Or probes, rather. The process of eliminating your opponent's ability to eco as hard as they can possibly do it makes it so your eco is that much stronger, which makes it so that they can't do that 2-base timing as well. To be fair, your opponent had a couple of mistakes that were about equal to yours. The biggest bit was your positioning and you overcommitting your army, right? You should have pulled all those drones back to your natural and said, I don't need my 3rd because I'm going to defeat this army and then I'm going to retake my 3rd and then build up my drone count really fast because I am Zerg. I'm going to be able to have the economy behind it to be able to win that you don't have. Your opponent was really, really precise. They knew exactly when they wanted to hit. They had the right unit compositions. They had upgrades, etc. Your scouting was actually really good. You just didn't really act really, really strongly with it. I think that was not an all-in. I think it was a transitional. They saw that you were weak, and then they all-in. That second warp-in of all zealots could have been an XI on the backside and been cool. But it is what it is. Also, your lings that were on the other side of the map, you could have... I mean, he did pick up all of them, but you could set up a run-by, which is what he was cleaning up. He was making sure you didn't have a run-by. If you had sent your lings away and attacked his main, he might have recalled, made the mistake to do that instead of ending the game. And if you gotten all your drones out of that base, be like, oh, oh crap, he's got army. I need to back off. So you need to like kind of psychologically fight with your opponent, and you didn't do that in any way, shape, or form. Like your build order was solid. You played well. You made good decisions. There's obviously a few gaps, but we all have those. Even professionals and GMs, right? That's part of the game. It's a very difficult game. It's about managing the actual match at all times. It's like really hard to do that. So I would say really good game on both players' part. I'm sorry that you're struggling with this, but I'm not super proficient, but I did see gaps in your play to make it so that you would have an extra, you probably would have an extra 6 to 8 workers and had another probably 10 to 20 supply of army, which would have been what you needed to win the game. So it's hard because you had to be super good on your injects. You need to make sure you have more than enough queens. You need to make sure you had enough supply. It's like you're just a step behind everywhere, and that's just a matter of playing the game more. You play the game, play another 500 games with the intent to improve. Important. Perfect practice makes perfection. Poor practice makes poor results, right? So just something to kind of like put in the back of your head as you play is like, how can I get closer to perfection, quote unquote? Assuming you want to get to GM and all that kind of stuff. But I understand like your worst matchup is this. You said it was like 30-some%, 37, I think, 36. And that's really rough. It's really hard to have one matchup where you're just like, I cannot win because of this kind of play style when they're doing a pressure that feels like an all-in. So, GG's. I hope to see you next time, and good luck with your future games, and feel free to shoot me another one, and maybe we'll see some improvement in your gameplay. Adios.